All right, guys, welcome again to session 6 of ServiceNow Basics. And good morning and good evening. So, today's topics first, we'll be extending our app we developed yesterday. So, we'll extend it to send email to the person of reminding them that we'll be calling them on a given date time. So this feature, if we want to have this feature, we have to work on couple of components, that is events, notification. So emails are also called notification in ServiceNow. So notification is an email. So don't get confused. We'll use those terms interchangeably because notification is a broader term. If you try to understand this, notification means letting someone know, notifying them, and that could be through various channels, calling them, sending them text, sending them email. So email, you can say, one of the notification uh, modes or channel, but yes, interchangeably, people call email as notifications in ServiceNow. So we'll have to go create notification, and we'll see how we can use templates in notifications. Sometimes there's a requirement that we want to use a similar type of content in multiple notifications with slight changes. How you can use templates there. There's a component called notification scripts where you can write small scripts within notification if some of your content is dynamic. Content means the body and the subject. If there's something dynamic about them, you can use notification scripts. And how do we actually trigger notification is also important. So we have to decide when we want to send the notification out. So sending means we have to tell system somehow now is the time to send it out. So there are triggers in notification. So in general, when we'll be extending this app, we'll also try to understand all these components. What are events? What are notifications? Template scripts, and how do we trigger, what are the various types of trigger for email notifications. The new topic we'll cover today is business rules. That is also very important component in ServiceNow, vastly used, I would say. As a name suggests, business logic is written inside these business rules. So if you have you know a requirement from a customer that when someone submits an incident, they want couple of things to happen. So part of it would be probably written in business rule. The requirements which are given to us by business, that is the customer, we we do coding around that requirement to meet that requirement within business rule. So business rule runs on server side, right? So these are server side components, and unlike client scripts, which were client side components. So just to revisit, client means browser. Anything that runs on your browser is said to be a client side component, and anything that runs on your servers where your instance is hosted or on your database, that is called server side component. So business rule is a server side component. All right, let's go and get down to work now. Let me share my this thing. Share. Okay, so here's my instance. Yesterday we created this communication tools app, and which had one module called logbook. Right, so let's open that, and here are the two entries. What I want to do now is when I submit or save this record, first thing I want is an email going out to this person, the user, telling them usual. Uh, that we will be contacting you on this date and time, because we have to discuss something around this incident. And any notes if I provide, that should also come in the email. That is one thing which I want to do. The second thing I probably would like to do is an email going out to this person, the logged in user, the person who created this record rather, an email going out to them when the preferred date time arrives, maybe 5 minutes before that, or maybe 10 minutes before that. That could be dynamic. We can we can we can enhance it to have two more fields. One is one should have the name of this person who's creating this record. We have to save it somewhere, because any people, different people, service desk agents will log into the system and use this. So who created which record, I have to keep a track of that. Of course I can use the created by field, I can use that, but I would rather prefer having it on screen somewhere here. That makes it a little obvious for people that we are capturing this name because we want the agent to be notified. And we'll have a drop down which will say notify me 10 minutes prior, or maybe 15 minutes prior, half an hour prior, and things like that. So we'll do that. We'll extend this. So I'm going a little beyond than what I thought, but it's a good idea. As I said yesterday, when we use a feature, that's when we realize what can we do more about it. So let's first of all go and create two more fields. So one is I'll put notify user. Let's call it agent to be notified. And the second field is a drop down which probably will say when to send reminder. Okay, let's go and create those fields. Now I'll use a shortcut here. I'll not go to tables dictionary. What I'll do is I'll right click here. I'll go to configure. I'll go to form layout. I told you in one of the session, there are many ways you can go and create fields in a table. Tables and modules, that's one way of doing it. Dictionary is another. By going to form layout, you can also do that like this, but you have a limited set of fields there. So what we'll do is we'll quickly create those two fields here, then we'll go to the respective dictionary and make any more changes we want. So let's call this agent to be notified, and that's a reference field obviously, because we'll have a user name there, the name of the user record, reference of the user record, some user, and it'll point to my user table. Okay, so maybe if I type sys user, it'll narrow it down a little bit more. Yeah. So when I type user, it's trying to bring in every table which has a user word in either name or label. So if I'm using the internal name sys underscore user, that's kind of narrows this down. That's what I want. All right, so I've added it here. Agent to be notified. Second field is when to send reminder. Okay, and I want this to be maybe a choice field. Choice like this. I'll add it here, and I'll save this. Maybe I want to make it a little more beautiful. So look, let's first save this. Let's save it. Okay. Close, and it's going to take me back. Maybe I want to have a separate section for this, and then these two align next to each other. Let's make it a little more beautiful. So I'll go to form design maybe. And you can do the same from form layout, but when it comes to designing, I prefer form layouts. All right, so what I want is one more section, and I'll call it notification. I'll drag this field here and that one there, and I would like to put this section before this one, somewhere in the middle. Let's go and see how this looks. Let me this form. Yeah, that looks elegant. That's what I want my form to look like. Maybe I'll put notes in a different section. It's already in a different section. Let's give it a name. Okay, let's do that. Save it. Let's go back. Reload it. Now, see, if I have more than one section, it just collapsed it, and now I have this layout. And all right, on my settings, it's not, it's just compacting it a little bit. I was just thinking, is there a way uh, to make sure my sections are expanded? I think there was one. Let's grab number text forms. Okay, not the tab forms. So yeah, you see now I have these sections like this. There's a setting on the personal profile. You go to here. So this is, this is personalization. We discussed about personalization and customization. This is personalization means my personal preferences as a user. So as a user, you can always go and decide how your sections should look like. Do you want tabbed forms or you don't want them? So if I don't want tabbed forms, this is how it looks. If I switch to tabbed forms, this is how it looks. So tab forms are more preferred because they give you a better, compact look. And this is a system-wide setting. Okay, it's not a form-specific setting. If I am doing tabbed, that means any form having sections will have tabs like this. And if I'm saying no tabs, that means the expanded layout that's applicable throughout the platform for that specific user. So it's a user-specific platform level setting. Right. Uh, let's modify a little bit here. So I've right clicked it and I'm going to configure dictionary. I want to change some attributes of this field. So I'll leave this optional. I don't want. I mean, if somebody wants to be notified, that's okay. If not, then still okay. But what I want to do is I want to filter on active users. I don't want everybody to be here. So in this drop down, I've chosen fit active and the default value is true, and that is okay. That's what I want. And I'll update that. When to send reminder. Okay, now here's the thing. I don't want this field to appear unless something is selected here. Once a user is selected, that's when it should appear and should be mandatory. Okay, so there's a condition here. Only when this field has a value, this one should come up, this field should come up and should be mandatory field. But before that, let's go and add some choices here. There's nothing here, right? And I want to have some choices. So right click and go to configure choices. Okay, just right click that, and like we go to dictionary, we can go to configure choices option here. So this option comes with drop downs only. And now I can add choices. So let's say 15 minutes. Let's keep it short, 5 minutes, so that we can see it also if it works. So 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So I'm giving some choices here. Okay, I'll save it. So now my drop down should have choices like this. Also, it's important to understand that these options I see on screen, they are labels, right? When you select them, what will be the value which we will get in this particular field. It's important because we use values in programming. What is behind? As I mentioned yesterday, labels are not to be trusted. Labels are, this is called when to send a reminder, but the actual field name is, if I right click, you'll see the field name is you underscore when underscore to send reminder, right? If I have to refer this field in my programming in my script, I'll have to use this, not that. And you can change it and decide not to change this. And ideally, you shouldn't be changing it once decided. System will not even allow you to change it rather. Because once a field is created in a table, it's fixed. You cannot rename it. You shouldn't be renaming it because then probably you have used it in your scripts a lot of places. And if you change it somehow, even with the help of ServiceNow from backend, a lot of code might break, because then you'll have to go and change that code. Unless you change it, it's going to break. So don't change your label values or field names. So I want a different value. So I don't want, let's go and see what are the values by default. Okay, let's right click again. And this time, instead of configure choices, I'm going to go to show choice list. Yeah, leave the screen. And if you see, these are 4 entries that have been created in a table called sys choice. If you look at my browser here at the top, that's a table where system store choices for all such drop downs across platform. Throughout platforms, you have drop downs, and if you have choices in them, system is going to store those entries here, right? So here are my 4 choices. Look at the label, look at the value, they are the same, right? I don't want values to be having characters in alpha. I just want them to be numbers. So what I'll go is I'll change this, because I'll be using them in my programming for mathematical comparisons and things, if it is greater than that, less than that. I cannot do it with such a data where we have characters also, alphabets. I just want numbers. So I'll change the values. Let's make it 60 minutes, right? That's 1 hour. I want to be consistent in this. So minutes is minutes. So like in your mathematical equations, when you want to compute something, you want all of the operands, or all of the numbers to be in the same unit. You cannot add kilograms and grams. You have to first convert kilograms to grams and then add both of them, or grams to, so bring them in the same unit. So now all of them are in minutes. You see, labels are still the same. Label doesn't matter. It's for the user convenience. Some, my customer might say, oh, can you do it MINUTES? Yeah, why not? Yeah, let's do that. So, it's for the user. It's for the user convenience. How our customer wants their user experience to be. So our user is our customer, but then our customer will have its their own users. So they might ask for such changes, and they don't care about what you have in the background. They just care about what they see. That's about choices, and went in and changed those values. You can have languages here. So this one is English. This is a international code for English. You can find them on Google. If you want a separate language to be supported, you can have entries for them, and these things will remain the same. The only things that will change is language code. Maybe Spanish will have ES here. That's their language code, and they'll have a different label which represent 1 minute. The internal value will remain the same because our coding will not change based on language. It will work the way it is. The field name will remain the same. The table will remain the same. So only things that are going to change is the language identifier and the label. And system will automatically pick up right set of choices based on the language on the user profile. So if you go to your profile, there's a language option. So I don't see it in self-service view. Maybe we'll see it in default view, because this is an end user view. Default view is more for support stuff view, and it's not there either, but it is there. I can always go and add that. So system, you can make the system support multiple languages, but then you have to ensure you have translations available for all those languages before you expose these languages. So if I save this, see, now I have a drop down here, just says English. If I want more languages, there are plugins which I have to activate. It's called language internationalization plugins. You activate that, and then it kind of for all these components, it creates entries, the translation entries as required. But anything that you have created yourself, like your new fields and drop downs values, you'll have to provide translations for them uh, yourself. System will not realize you have added something. It's not going to translate things on the fly. It has to have translations available for all such things. All right. Okay. Let's go back to our example. So what I was saying is, now I have this drop down. I have choices, and the labels are different, but the values are like 5, 15, 30. Oh, I changed to 1 minute. It should be 1 hour. Let's go back and show choices. This is 1 hour. Just copy pasted. So I make those mistakes sometimes. Let's go and see how it looks now. Yeah, that looks better. Uh, that looks fine. So, sometimes what happens is you want them to be in a specific order. You want maybe 15 before 5 and 30 after 1. You can decide that. Go to your show choices. Or maybe even through configure choices, if you go there, you can move up and down and arrange them in the order you want. Maybe you don't like the default order of the system. Also, I think on the show choices, you'll have the order field where you can, or sequence is there, right? So you can put in the sequence in which you want them to appear. Okay. All right, let's go back. And my situation was this should not appear up front. Only when I have something here, that's when I want this to come. Yeah, I'll come back to those questions. Yes, you can have translations to languages. You can have, you'll see these fields on the existing records. If I open one of them, you'll see them there as well, right? You see them here. So there are challenges, if once you roll out something like this to production, and then you add fields, and then you make them mandatory. The old records will not have those values. So if you'll go and open them, you'll see, blank records with no values. You'll have to plan a strategy how you want to populate them, maybe through a script, one-time script which you need to run to populate them, or you're okay to leave them as it is because they're closed. It depends really. Uh, let's go and add an active flag also right now since we are here. So an active flag is not something I'll show on screen, but I want to have it. It'll decide whether our record is still live or not, and it will be a yes no type field, right? It's a boolean, whether it's going to be active or not. There's nothing else about it. Is it called boolean? Let me see. True false. Okay, it's a true false field. I don't want this to be on the form, so I'll move it here. So it will still create it in the table, not have it. And one more field, let's say state. Okay, I'll explain what that is. Let's add this, and yeah, I want this to be somewhere here. Save it. Okay, now my state, I want to put some choices here. Let's go and configure choices. So this will define, what are we doing with this? So by default, when you create a record, we'll have it as open, or maybe, let's make it more meaningful, still to contact. That's one, and contacted. That's another. The two choices here, okay? Still to contact and contacted. And again, I'll go and change the internal values because I want them to be more program friendly. I want script friendly, if you like, that's a term. So these long values with spaces, I don't want to do some comparisons with them. What I do is, I'll change them a little bit. So maybe still underscore to contact. That's one, and contacted is another. Because when you have to do comparisons within scripts, you'll use these values, not labels. And if you have spaces, you'll be in trouble comparing them. So, and also, small and capitals could cause problems. So always change them to one order, either all capital or all small. It's your choice. I prefer them being in the lower case, the small case, right? Okay, when I create a record, this should be mandatory. And let's go and configure dictionary, make it mandatory, and let's set the default value also. So mandatory, and my default value here is still underscore to underscore. That now you see the value is used here. That's uh, that's my value for the choice I want to be set as default. So I'll update it. Again, no, that's not the right thing. Maybe let's go and see choices. Still to contact, right? You saw that I gave a wrong value and it just added it as an option, which is not what I want, right? So again, go back to my dictionary because I want to set a default value. It's mandatory now, if you see. And I don't want this. This is the value. You have to be very careful with these things. All right. And let me reload this form. Yeah. When I create a new record, my default value is still to contact. So that's the default value. The other thing is I'll have to control visibility of when to send reminder dropdown based on whether I have a value in agent to be notified or not. If there's nobody, what's the sense of having it, right? So let's how do we do that? Let's do and create a UI policy. I mentioned yesterday, if we want to conditionally control visibility or mandatory or read-only aspect of fields, UI policies is what we use. We can always also use client scripts, but UI policies are more easy to configure. They're UI driven, drag and drop and choices. In client script, you have to write scripts. So if you want to just change visibility aspect or editable aspect, that is editable or read only and mandatory optional aspect, use UI policies. So this is my UI policy which will control visibility and mandatory aspect of when to send reminder field. Okay, and my condition is when agent to be modified is not empty. Okay, that is when I want to show that field, and of course I want this to run when the form loads, and I want to revert the changes when the condition is not true. That means if it has a value, I would like to show it. If not, I like to hide it. Let's go and create a new UI policy action at the bottom. Once I save, I see all this related list. So don't be confused with these tabs and these tabs. These are sections, right? You see them even before you save the record, but related lists, come only when you save it. So the related list means list of records which are in a different table but are related to this record somehow. Because we know UI policies are related to policy actions. Any UI policy will need to have some policy actions, right? Unless it is there, there's no meaning for it. If you're not using scripts, if you're using script part of UI policies, maybe you don't need UI policy actions. That's why they're not mandatory. So what do I want to show and hide? Reminder, right? Come on. Preferred date time. That's what I want to control, and I want to show and hide it. So when it is not empty, I want to show it. So visible is true, and also I want to make it mandatory. I'll save it. Right. So let's see how policy looks like. So it says when this field is not empty, that is agent to be notified is not empty, this field should come up and should be mandatory. Reverse if false. If it's going to be empty, it's going to become invisible and optional, right? It's important that you do that. If you don't use reverse if false, even if it doesn't have a value, it'll keep coming up. And also to revert the mandatory aspect, because if even if your field is invisible on form and it is mandatory, system will not let you save it, and your users will be in trouble wondering what's wrong. We don't see that field and system is asking us a value for that field. Okay, let's see how it behaves. Okay. Something wrong, right? This doesn't have a value and still I see this. Why? When to send remind is what I configured, right? Agent to be, I think I did something wrong. No, what is that? You prefer date time? No, when to send reminder is what I wanted to control, right? Not prefer date time. So let me change the field to when to send reminder. Okay, this one. Come on. Update. Let's go to logbooks, create new. Yeah. Now you see that field is not visible because there's nothing here. Let me put in some value. Oh, it just came in, right? If you're trying to save it, it's going to tell you a couple of fields are mandatory. It's highlighting them. One of them is set to reminder, when to send reminder. If I give it a value and save it now, that one goes away. Now the rest of the fields are mandatory. Let me remove this and it's gone, right? Let me put it back. It's here. Did you realize one thing? Even when it was gone, the value was there. That means if I'm going to save this record, that field will have that value. Even if it is not on form, but we did selected a value and it's there. Its system is retaining that. I don't want that, right? What do? I'll go to my UI policies and I'll use that flag called clear values we discussed yesterday. Now we understand the importance of that, right? We don't want these values to be saved when the fields are hidden. There could be a reason if you want to do that, but ideally that's not what we want to do. So let me save it and let's try it one more time. Okay, let's select somebody here. Let's give it a value. Okay, now I decide no, maybe I don't want to send it. It's gone. Let me select a user, maybe same. Right, it's blanked out. It's none again. That's what I want, right? If I'm not really showing that field, I'm not taking inputs. Any previous input should be wiped out. I don't want that to be taken. All right, I think that looks neat for now. So we have this, we have all of that. What next? Okay, now is the time, when I save it, First thing is I want an email to go out to this user. That's the very first thing, telling them when will we contact them, against which ticket number, and any comments, right? That's what I want. So let's go and create an email. So there's a module called notifications. Notification, it's again, a lot of notifications and stuff, but I'll go to my favorite system definition, or maybe system notification now. So system notification and notifications here, right? So I'm going there. A lot of notifications, that is emails there. Let me create one more very very specific to my needs, and name of the notification, right? So I'll, I'll give it a name, inform user about intent to contact. Okay, that's my this thing, and I'll give it there's a limit. So I want, because there's so many notifications, I want to somehow name it in a manner that I can relate it to the module. So it's logbook is one. That's logbook, and contact user, inform user. Right, that's how you name, because there's a limit. If I'm it's stopping me here, you can have a you cannot have name greater than that, longer than that for this field. That is okay, that's what they want, but I still want to have a meaningful name, self-explanatory name. So logbook is my module, inform user, contact intent. So now as an admin, I know what this is doing, and it's going to be easy to explain to someone on the admin and the developer side. This is nothing to do with the user. They don't care what name you are giving, X, Y, Z, A, B, C. It's not going to appear to them. It's for us to ensure how we name our components so that they are later on manageable and self-explanatory. So you see, it's I'm being careful with field names, with labels, with even names for the components, function names, script names. This is a good habit to develop that thing that should come out naturally. I don't know why people write X, Y, Z, test one, test two, notification one, notification two. Why don't they think about someone has to manage it at some point. So let's make it a little easy for them. It's always difficult to manage a platform developed by somebody else. It's always difficult. It will remain difficult because you don't know what thought went in their mind based on a particular design, the way they choose to write a script and not to use policy and then a script and other way around. So let's make it a little easy for them so that they can manage it. Somewhere you'll be managing something developed by somebody else, so you would expect the same from them. So let's not leave the bad footprints. So let's go and select table. Okay, the table on which my notification will be based, so that's my logbook table, because that's a table, right, on which I want my notification to be based. Category is ServiceNow's way of classifying your or categorizing your notifications as on a broader level. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever to the user or to you, but it's just if you give it a right category, it'll help them categorize it and use it in a better way at a place in ServiceNow which is called notification preferences. uh, we'll talk about it later, but at this point, see, the default category is uncategorized. You can add more categories. So maybe let's see if there's something about end users. No, if there's anything about user. No, let me create new category and call it end user. This is category for end user. notifications, right? Let's be smart. So any end user notifications I create, end users are people using our system. Any such user, any notifications for them will align it to this category. Active, of course, I want this to be active. I'll leave a couple of those fields, the advanced options. I don't want to touch them, but broadly, you want to make sure your notification is active. It aligns to a table. Rest of them, you may choose the way you like, category and name and all that. When to send, right? When do you want this notification to go out? There are a couple of options here. Record inserted or updated. Event is triggered. And the last one is triggered. Okay. Let's use the first one, the very basic one, because that fits our example. So when the record is inserted, exactly at that point, I want the email to go out and tell person, the user, that will be contacting them on a given date time regarding ticket number. So that's the option I've chosen here. We'll go and see the second option later on, but let's choose that simplest one. So I'll check this inserted box. I don't want on update. So if I check this, every time the record will update, this notification will go out. No, I don't want that to happen. So only when it is inserted. And any other condition? No. You may choose to have conditions. So, when my number is this or preferred date time is less than a day, or I don't know. I mean, you can choose if you want to have any conditions. For this case, it really doesn't apply. I always want to send a notification to the user when the record is created. And who will receive it, right? There are a couple of options here. You may choose a couple of groups whom you want to notify, right? You can select groups like this, as many groups you want. So all these groups, all the users inside these groups, provided they have emails on their profile, will be notified. So they have to be active users in the group. The active flag should be checked on the user record. They should have email, and there's a drop down called notification on the user profile. Its value should be enabled. It has a value called disable also. If you have chosen a disable value, you'll not get an email because you chose not to receive emails from system. That's a system-wide setting for that particular user on their profile. I don't want groups to be notified, so I'll just get rid of them. What I want is a user to be notified. Now again, on the left hand side I have a couple of options. So users, I may select specific users from the system. I want this user, I want that user. I may choose any set of users. And if this user is not in the system, maybe I'll give it an address. I'll just add them. I don't know where this guy came from, but yeah, you can add emails as well. Okay, but that is also not what I want, so I'll get rid of all that. This button adds logged in user here like this. I'm logged in, so it's a shortcut for that. You may choose to have me from here as well. It's your choice. What I want is this option, users groups in fields. So here are my fields on my table. I have number, incident number, user, agent to be notified. These two fields make sense, right? These have user records. So I want the user to be notified. I'll select this. Right, and I'll press this padlock again, and that's it. I want that user to be notified. So you can select fields from your record which you think have an email address or the reference to the user record. That makes sense. If you want to fix some users also, so additionally you can do that. Additionally, I want to be notified always. So that's both of them will get it. You may choose to select some groups also if you want them to also receive it. So it's not limited to just one field. You can choose as many combinations you want and all of them will get it. But at this point, I don't think it makes sense. So let's get rid of that. right? You can add more groups and users here if you like, using the groups and user fields on your record. What will it contain, right? That's the content. Here's a subject and here's my message. So let's give it a subject. Uh, so what should be the subject? We are trying to contact the user for, okay, service desk will contact you. Dear, now I want the username, right? I cannot just type it here, and it's going to be different on different records. So what I do is I go here on the right hand side, you have fields option. You expand that tree. It shows you the fields on your table. So my user record is this. I'll expand it further. Okay. I want to pick up their name. So I'm look at, I'm drilling down. So where's the name, right? I'll go and pick up their name. That's the name. I'll click on that and that's it. I don't want this content to come because it's going to say dear username colon and then the user's name will come. I don't want that. I'll delete this portion, but I'll leave this much. So what it will do is it's going to bring in that user's name automatically from the user record for that user which is mentioned on that particular logbook record which is getting created. So dear whatever name will come here automatically. We would like to inform you that service desk will contact you on now my preferred date and time, right? I'll go again and pick that field. So it's here in my fields, preferred date time. Again, I'll remove this part. I don't want that content to come. I just want the value from that field. We'll contact you on this regarding the incident number. Okay, and I'll get rid of that again and I'll leave that portion. I just want the field values, right? I don't want those labels. So we would like to inform you that service desk will contact you on this date and time regarding, and that's it. Thanks for your cooperation. Service desk. Okay, that's how you create notification. You can expand this like this to see this. I can use this full screen mode if your content is bigger and collapse it. Try with this HTML editor anyways. Maybe I would like this to be bold as well. Okay, you can change colors, fonts and whatnot. So that's it. And maybe if I have some notes, I said if I have some notes, I want these notes to come here. And I'll leave this label as it is. Okay, if they've put some notes, I want them to be appearing here in my notification. Anything else we want to do? Maybe I want number in my subject also. What I do is I'll just copy this and I'll put it here. I placed a hyphen because that's what I want, and then space, and then this whole thing. It's a placeholder. System will automatically replace this with the incident number against which this logbook is being created and we're sending email. All right, that's pretty much it. I'll update it. Let's go and submit this and let's see if an email goes out. So first thing I would like to ensure is a user should have an email address. Okay, so the user I will use should have an email address. Let's go maybe the first one. So it does have an email address. It's a fake email address. It's not on screen right now, but I can see it from the list. You can choose to add fields, right? So it's there. Also, as I said, I want to make sure the notification flag is on. So notification is what I'm going to add on my list, and it should be enabled, right? It's enabled and it has the email address. Let's go and see what happens, right? So of course, it's a fake email address, so email is not going to go out, but I can still go and check in my logs if the email went out and how does it look like. So yeah, let's pick up an incident where the caller is able tutor, right? Maybe contains ABEL. You know, this is how you search. It says none. I don't know why, but anyways, let's pick up the first one. Okay, and that has my name. Let me change it to this guy's name, and let's give it a preferred date time. I'll leave it still to contact because that's what we're doing. Once we contact them, we'll change it to contacted, and that marks the record as inactive and closes it because the purpose is so right. Additional notes has become read only because we did something yesterday. We should get rid of that. I don't want agent to be notified at this point, but let's submit this and see what happens. All right, so we created this record just now, right? Yeah, and let's see if I have an email. So what I do is I'll go to mails. I'll just type mail, and if you go down, you have this system mailbox where you have inbox, received, outbox, sent. Let's go to outbox. It should still be there, right? Look at the very bottom. We have our email here. It's in ready state and still waiting to be processed. Look at the subject. Service desk will contact you, and it replaced that placeholder with my dynamic incident number. Here's the recipient, and that's the body. You want to preview it in HTML, just open it and we'll see how our email looks like. Exactly the way we want it to look. Dear able tutor, look at the replacement of that placeholder, the user's name with this value. We would like to inform that service desk will contact you, date and time, the time zone regarding this. Notes, thanks. There were no notes, and then thanks for cooperation. If I would have given notes, probably they'll come here. Okay. There's also important thing at the bottom of the email. This is called watermark. All right. These are watermarks. These are important. So when people respond back to ServiceNow's generated email, system reads these watermarks to relate that email with the record and then perform operations you would like to have. Maybe you want to just record those emails against those tickets, and you want to do something else, you can do all that. But this is important to understand that watermarks play a very important role. You shouldn't be deleting them. Okay. So that's how your emails are configured and they go out. So this is one example. So what we we literally sent out an email when a record was created. Let's go and enhance our application a little bit. So this field is coming as read only. I want to first see what is causing it. A UI policy. I don't want that to be read only. So this was the one I think we configured yesterday, which is causing it to become read only. Notes, right? Yeah, it's there. So let me deactivate that. I don't want to use it for now. So logbooks, and if I go and create one more, and this time let's select a different record. Set David Miller, this. Okay, and here is the content. This is a sample notes line 1 and 2 and line 3 and so on. Let me submit this and see what happens. Let's go back to mail and let's go and see what's in our outbox. All right, at the bottom we have this email going out to David Miller. It has the right content. I think the subject looks okay. The recipient is fine. Let's go and see our content here in HTML. And yeah, you see the notes I have the notes here now, right? So that's how you create your notifications. Again, let's go back to notifications. System notification, this one. So always prefer you going to system applications, from there do stuff. You see some of them are available here, but I don't prefer them because these are the areas which are visible to only admins, and probably sometimes if you go there, maybe you'll not see all of them, maybe with specific filters at the top. You see there are filters, you don't see all of them. You can get rid of them and see all, but that's your choice. I mean, if you want to do that, I prefer, because that's meant for somebody else, people with different roles. But I, being an admin, a developer, I prefer going to system modules and applications. So I do it from here. Here's my notification. Let's sort them by update, not updated. I'll have to add created field because I just created it. So it should be on the top. If I sorted descending, sorted descending. Yeah, it's the top. All right. Now, what will it contain? You saw I used fixed content here. I could rather use a template. I could create a template and use it. Right now, there's a template called unsubscribe and preference. Let's go and see what it has. So it's just adding that unsubscribe and subscribe option at the bottom of the email. If you might have noticed, again, outbox, those emails are not going out because you know the email addresses are fake, and I've not enabled emails on my instance to go out. But if you noticed at the bottom, if I open this in HTML, there's this subscribe and unsubscribe and notification preferences link. That's what is coming from within this template, right? From this template, I may choose to put my message content and subject here, and then map it. Of course, you'll have to select the table also, and map it back to my email notification record. That way, I'll be using the template and not the content right from the notification. And what that means is I can reuse that template on other notifications if I like. You can try that later on using templates, but that's how it happens. So ideal way of using it is through template if you think there's a reusability. But also there's one more factor which decides whether you should use template or not, and that is the layouts, email layout, right? So if you want your emails to have consistent look and feel throughout the platform, what you do is you create a layout and you map your email templates to that layout, and you use email templates within your notification, because that's a path. Your notifications should be mapped to templates, and templates should be mapped to layout. You cannot directly map layout to notifications. You're getting my point? Because that's very basic. People would like to have a consistent look and feel, font sizes and all that stuff for their emails throughout the platform, and the only way to do is through layouts, unless you are very very specific about these things when creating notifications. People do make mistakes, and it's not one developer. There are multiple developers working on a single instance at one point and designing notification. It's very hard to keep them in line and keep them in within standards. So what we do is we create a email layout that defines the look and feel, and then we use layouts in the templates. So we tell our developers always use layouts in the templates and always use templates for notification content. Right? If you open this layout just to see what they're doing here, yeah, they're defining some style, and you can use complete CSS here. So they've defined inline style, and then they're picking up the notification body, whatever the content is coming, and at the bottom, see, they're adding this notification, subscribe, unsubscribe tags, and these are inbuilt tags to represent those links to the system. Right? You can explore these options. These are advanced options. I'll not go into them, but you can always go and explore how to use layouts, email layouts, how to use templates. They're just an extension to notification. So in the beginning, notifications came, then they realized it's best to have templates, and they realized it's better to have layouts as well. At some point, they might decide to have something else mapped, but they're evolving, and the right path for configuring notifications, if you're setting up a new instances, to always use layouts, templates, and not to have direct content within the notification. All right. So that is it. Let me show you some notification scripts also, if there are any in the system already. So if you want some scripts to be there in your system, so you go to this option at the bottom called show notification scripts. That will show you the notification scripts related to this notification, maybe all in the system. So I have all of this. Add new users to BCC. Let's go and see what this is. So there's a lot happening inside the script, but if you read through it, this is a function. This gets created automatically when you create a new notification script. All you have to do is write your code inside that, and they're doing some query on the table using glide record object. We'll cover glide record later on. I want to cover that not today, maybe next weekend, but this is important object which we use to query database, perform inserts, updates, deletes, while loops to go through it in the cycle. See, they're using email object. This is again an important object which lets you perform certain operations on the email notifications. So you want to add address. So email object dot add address function. So it's out of the box. You can use it like this, and then which field and what do you want to put the value, etc. So they're adding people to BCC. We'll come to all this scripting later on. I want to cover glide record, I want to cover whiles and all this thing, but at this point, because we are here, just understand we have an email object which we can use in notification scripts to manipulate various aspects of our email. We want to change subject dynamically, you want to change body, you want to add people to CC, BCC, you want to change to, even if you want to change the rendering address of the from. So when email goes out from the system, it has an email ID which ServiceNow allocates you, unless you're using your own SMTP server and you map it to ServiceNow instance. Otherwise, ServiceNow provides one SMTP and one POP3 servers to you for inbound and outgoing emails. So your email addresses are something like your instance at servicenow.com, and that's how it renders on the from part when someone opens that email. But you want your from part to say IT service desk, and underneath that you have that email address, it's okay. But you want to say service desk, IT service desk, customer service desk, you can do it through scripts by email dot maybe from, and then add that here. Let me show you some email settings. So if I go to email, and if I go at the bottom to the system properties and email properties, okay, I've just typed email and I'm looking at the email properties module under system properties. You'll see a couple of email specific settings at the platform level. So you see email sending enabled, it's disabled as of now. That's why my emails are not going out. They're in ready state. They're not getting processed. All right. And send all emails to test. I think that applies to subprod. Today's agenda is not to go through all this setting, but I wanted to show you how you can switch on and off emails in going out from your system using this flag. Inbound is still not enabled. I don't entertain incoming emails, but if you want, you can switch this on. There are a couple of other settings. We'll go through them at some point, but if you want, you can go and explore these settings. They're self-explanatory very much. But today's agenda is not to go through email properties, right? So we saw usage of templates, we saw layouts, notifications, and we triggered an email based on, you know, this thing, insert. You can choose to have it going out every time. And that means you can check that box called updated also. So notification down there, this one. When to send, you can check this box if you want notification to go out on every update. So whenever anybody updates a record, this email will go out. I don't want that to happen. All right, let's go back and look at our application, small application. All right, this looks neat. Any new records will have this value. There's an old one. Let me set this and save it. All right. I think the next thing for us was to send an email out to the agent also, who's here. When their time arrives, so if I'm selecting 15 minutes, that means 15 minutes before the preferred date and time, I want the email to go out to this person. Right? This is a little more complex than that. And this will need us to have some server-side scripting, some business rules which we have to write. All right, so this will need a business rule. Let's, I think, we're just going a little over the topic, but let me walk you through the business rule first today, and we'll enhance our application in the next session to make this happen. But let's try to understand what business rules are. So if I go to business rule, if I just type business rule here, I go to system definition business rules, right? Now, what are business rules? First of all, before I open this, any business rule, as the name suggests, and as I mentioned earlier, your business logic is written inside these business rules, these components. They are server-side components. That means they execute on servers. They have access to database, right? Because they are on server, they can access database. They can use database. And you can write all your business logic inside them. Effectively, business rules are executed. When are they really executed? When you perform something, some operation on a table in database. So if you're inserting something and you want some logic to be executed, some code to be executed. If you're updating some records, you want that code to be executed. If you're deleting it, even if you're querying it, if you're trying to bring up a list, and that kinds of performs a query on the database table, so it selects all those records and bring to you, that's a query. So you scan those records, you bring to the client side, that query, even if that is happening and you want to do something, you can do all that in business rule. So if I click on new, right, let's see what are the fields available. So name, of course, give it a name, a self-explanatory name, which table you want this business rule to run on. So in our case, let's say logbook. Okay, so logbook is a table when I want to, on which I want to run this, and that's a name. It's active. When to run, right? When do you want to run it? When the record is inserted. So every time a record is inserted, this business rule will run. Will come down to what will it do, but at this point I'm defining what triggers it, what causes it to run. So when to run, on insert, maybe on insert and update. So every time you update it, it's going to run as well. I just want to update it on updates, just want to run it on updates, so I just selected that box. So you can choose on what combination you want the business rule to run, right? So maybe I just want to run it once, or maybe I want to run it every time a record is updated. You can do that. It's your choice. Additionally, you can put in some filters. I want to run this business rule when the records are inserted, and maybe preferred date and time is today. Just a random condition here, right? So if the preferred date and time is today, if somebody is saying, okay, contact me in the evening, that means I want to do something more, because it's very near. It's today itself. If it would have been something else, probably I'll not run it. But if because it is today, I want to make sure I do something else. So you can have that sort of a condition. Role condition also means if I restrict it to admin, what that means is the user, the logged in user who's doing something causing this business rule to run. Okay, the logged in user is doing something, probably an insert on this table causing this business rule to run, and the condition matches. It's going to see if the logged in user has an admin role or not. Only if they have admin role, it's going to execute it, otherwise not. So it's an extension to the condition. So you can have roles also if you want business rules to run only for specific roles. So when ITL people do something, people with ITL role, I want this to run not for end users and admin. So I just add ITL here. Very rarely used. I've not seen role specific business rules as such, but yeah, I do. I've seen a lot of conditions here most of the times. And now action, right? We discussed when you want to trigger it, when you want to execute this, but what will happen? You can set values for fields. Maybe you want to set notes. We will contact user soon. I don't know if that's what you want to do. Or you can set another field. You want to probably prefer state to, you want the state to be set to contacted. You can choose that. So you can choose a field and values you want to assign to those fields when the business rule runs. Okay. Also, in addition to that, maybe you want to add message on screen. So you can choose this checkbox, click on that, and then type in your message here. So when this business will run, they'll see a message on the top like this. Maybe you want to abort operation. What that means is whatever they're trying to do, it will be cancelled, and they'll see a message at the top saying invalid update, because system thinks the conditions are matched, and that means you're doing something wrong. I want to abort the operation, the action. So abort it, and additionally show some message at the top why you're aborting it if you want. It's your choice. Right, so this is what you can do. If I switch on the advanced option here, the moment I do that, notice there's a separate tab that comes up called advanced, right? Like that. So if I go in advanced, here's where I can write my whole script. If my business logic is more complex than just showing message and aborting and setting field values. And usually it is more complex than that. Where you query tables, you perform loops, you check conditions, you update certain fields on certain tables, you can fire emails from here also. You can send SMS, and a lot of stuff happens. You call another platforms, web services, you connect with some other platform, make them do something, take the output from there, proceed and do stuff. You can do all of that within business rule. Let's go and see one of the existing business rules, any random one, to just get a glimpse of how it looks like. Append internal chat transcript. Okay, this is an out of the box business rule. Look at the name they have given, table, and they're saying when to send. So it's a little beyond than just insert and update. So when you choose advanced, even in when to run section, you see the more options that came up. Insert and updated were there, now have delete also. So when someone deletes a record in this table, I want to run this. Someone queries a record on that table. So query means trying to search for a record from here, trying to bring that record up on the list or on the form, or even performing a query from the script, from some other script. You want to run this business rule. And then you have more options in the when drop down, before, after, async, display. So before means before an update happens. So before system updates the record in their database, you want to run it. Maybe after the update has happened. Maybe before the insert and update, after insert and update has happened. Maybe before the insert and update has happened. So you can make any combination of, and before and after with insert and update, delete and query. Display, it's just display, it takes away all the other options, which means when a record is displayed on the form. So when the form opens for this, from this table to open a particular record to show that record, that's when you want to run it. So the record is displayed, right? There's a difference between query and display. So when the record is shown on the form like this, that's when the display business rule runs. But if you're querying it, you're just trying to show it on list, or doing a query from search, or another script, the query business rule fires. Again, order is important. Business rule runs from lowest to highest in a given order, and you have conditions here. So these are the options that appear when you choose advanced option, and they have written a small script here. Important thing to notice is these two objects called current and previous. So we are going through a lot of objects today. It's important that, as I said yesterday, there are some of them, it's not a very long list, but yes, we have couple of objects which are important, like G underscore form we used yesterday, email object we saw today, glide record we briefly discussed, we'll talk about it in detail later on. You see two more objects called current and previous. Current object and previous object. So current object represents the current record in the business rule. So the record against which the business rule is executing, this current object represents that record as current. That means the changes which user have made, you'll see in this record. Current dot, in our case, any field like incident number, will have the incident number which user mentioned just now before, when they updated my record, and that caused the business rule to run. The previous record will hold values which were there before the update was done by the user. So previous dot incident number will have the older incident number which was there before user changed it to something else and pressed save. So you might want to use them to do some comparisons and use them in your business logic. We'll see them. We'll go through business rules in detail when we implement it for our case in the next session, but it's important to understand that these two objects are there called current and previous, representing current and previous record state of the record for which we are running this business rule. And then there's this gs.event queue. So gs, another important object. Event queue method is putting in an event causing something to happen. We'll discuss about events. I don't know if it was there on my list today. Yeah, it was there, but I think it's going to take more time. So we'll talk about events, and we'll trigger events. We'll have a notification based out of events in the next session, because what we want to do now has to be done through this event mechanism, because now it's more complex. It's not about a record inserts and the email goes out. It's about when a record is inserted, system kind of creates something which waits for this date and time to come, and just before that, maybe whatever duration I've selected, 15 or 20 minutes before that, an email to go out. So it's more complex than what we just did for the user. But we'll extend this in an application of ours in the next session, and that will help us explore event mechanism and business rules in more detail. All right, so we'll use business rules, we'll use event, and I'll touch upon script includes also in my next session. So that will help us cover some more topics. And as I said, we just have 2 more sessions left. So again, I think next weekend is going to be the last weekend we'll meet, but I'll try to cover as much as I can. But I'm sure we have covered basics pretty much. Now we are kind of somewhere between basics and intermediate. So the intent of this whole series was to give everyone an idea of what ServiceNow is, what are the various components, and how to use it, and what are the resources available. So broadly, I think we have touched those, but in the next two sessions, maybe we'll touch more important topics, and I hope we'll be able to cover it within 8 sessions, if not 9. I don't want to make it 9, just in interest of everyone's effort and time they have to invest. But let's see how it goes. Let me go to the chat to see if we have questions here quickly. Recording. Language option is available only for choices. Can we transform the labels too? Yes, I'll show you how. So if I want to have a translation for this field, like incident number, I right click on that and configure label, right? You go there. So you see it has a language component here, and you have a label. So if you want to have a different entry, a translation for Spanish, say Espanol, that's just what they call it, ES. I'll give a Spanish label here, a plural Spanish label here, and I'll just right click and do insert, not save, insert. So that will create a copy of this for Spanish language. So when the logged in user's language is Spanish, this label will be used instead of English. Another way to do it is, let's go to the dictionary, and at the bottom, you should have labels as a related list. If I'm not wrong, right? You have it here. At the bottom, if I scroll down, you have labels here. You can create a new entry from here. Just click on new and mention all those values and save it. Yes, you can have translations, and you need to have them because the UI component that needs to be translated are usually and mostly these labels and these tabs and the choices, the values in them. Will these fields agent to be notified and will show an existing record? Yeah, I did mention they will come up. It's for you to design it in such a manner that old records are not impacted. You run a script to populate them with some default value, or if they are closed and if you don't care, that's okay. But a better design, in my opinion, does consider taking care of the old records. So running a one-time scripts to fix those old records. So if you go to background, if you type background here and you open this scripts background, this is a space where you can write in script of your choice and run it. So usually people run one-time scripts from here. There's another option called fix scripts. Fix scripts, you can create a new fix script. It's same like background script, but in background you just write a script, you run it, and it happens, and the script is gone unless you have copy pasted it somewhere in your notepad, etc. But if you want to reuse your scripts, use fix scripts. These will store your scripts in the system. So give it a name, leave it active, put your script here, let it be run once, so you just deactivate it and save it. So once your fixed scripts are created and they're saved in the system, you can always open them again and run them as many times you want using this run fixed script option. So if you think your scripts are not just one time and you may want to run them time and again, use fixed scripts. With just one time, use background scripts, but you have to store your script somewhere in your personal notebook, etc. for that. So yes, you have to, a good design does consider how the old records should be taken care of. You shouldn't be leaving it to, in that state where we have data integrity issues or issues where we see, oh, something is missing, something went wrong. I guess Power Windows on, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did realize that. And I tried to show them as and when they were needed, but I don't know which part was missed today, but I'll take care of that in future. How agent to be notified field is being populated for username. No, we are not populating agent to be notified. We're just populating the the username. So if I click new, I see nothing in agent to be notified. We just populate the user based on the incident I select. So you're not selecting agent. If you want to do that, you need to first understand what logic you want to have it in place to populate it. Maybe I think the assigned to. So incidents, if you look at the incident record, the way they have callers, they do also have assigned to. So people to whom the ticket is assigned. Maybe you want to populate assigned to automatically in the agent to be notified. Maybe you want to do that. That's your business case, your requirement, but that makes sense to me. Because when you're selecting an incident, this is the user and that's a person working on. These two people need to coordinate. So if you want to populate them, use the same scripting we discussed yesterday to populate this. So you can use almost the same script, but just changing the field name from caller to assigned to. vtrace who executed background script as a part of auditing. Yes, if you run a background script, you'll see them in the logs. So if you go to log here, just type logs, and at the bottom go here. There's an option called all, not this one, but system logs. System logs, right there. And I'll just put log, not logs. System here at the bottom. If I go in here and I open this, I have all the logs here. So if I filter down on something called scripts, I'll come to know the scripts which people executed. Let's see if that is what happens. So there's a script probably I'm writing here, and I'm just I'm just putting something. Again, I'm using GS object and their important functions log and print. So I'm just running that. So it just did something. Let's go to logs again. Sort them by descending. You see two things here. One is source a script background check. This is the script that has been executed, and we can always add created by to see who did that. Yeah. So admin, that's me. My username is actually admin. My name is this, but my user ID is admin. So admin ran this script on this date and time. So its system records that who did it. Also, one thing you noticed, I used two statements, gs.log and then I used gs.print. So we see bb here, but not aa, right? So there were two statements. Let's go back and try to, is that okay? Oh, I can go back to logs and show you the script from there. So look at this. I used gs.print and gs.log. So when I say gs.log, that puts that statement in the logs. So of course we have the complete script, but also it puts some logs in the logs, system logs. But if I'm doing print, it just prints on screen. For that time, it doesn't records it in the log. Sometimes you run scripts and you want to see some outputs on screen. Sometimes you want to record outputs in logs. So it depends if you use gs.log or gs.print. That's the difference between log and print statement of GS object. And to answer your question, yes, scripts are recorded. You can always filter. This is the source against which the scripts are recorded. So there are a lot of sources, but when you run a background script, we have source called script background check. Okay. Hope that answers your question. And that's pretty much it for today. In the next session, maybe we'll put some auditing also on our tables from security constraint. Let's talk about ACLs, business rules, scripting tools. So a lot of stuff to cover. Let's see how far we can go with this. But I think we're doing good. Thank you guys for joining and have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you in the next session, and I'll put the recording on the YouTube as soon as I have that. All right. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.